Hello, everybody. Coming back to you live. Um, yeah. I really appreciate this experience. Appreciate the last live. Um, it was a good experience, and as I said, I'm going to be coming in. I already see I got a viewer. Um, Once a week. That's me. I'm pretty consistent. I'm going to always be thinking about the kind of content that I'm bringing to you ahead of time. And as you can see from the thumbnail, it's a lot that I want to talk about, but I'll keep it short. I hope you all are familiar with that picture. It is a picture of Apple. You all know Apple, our phones, the people that create our music streams. Um, they hold a lot of our content, a lot of our information, right? So that is an aerial view of the Apple corporations in Silicon Valley, which is what I'll be talking about today. Um, yeah, as we cadence this year out of the summer, um, there's a lot that could be talked about just in this year alone. Um, as it pertains to music. Of course, I'm thinking about my Apple and phone and all the music I listen to get me through the week and get me on a kind of focus level and basis of what I need to obviously represent and push forward through as a leader in my city, in my home, in my community, as a teacher in the public school system. Um, Heck, as just a man trying to live, right? In this hot weather that we have this week, this heat wave going most of the southern parts. Did some martial arts with my personal instructor. Um, and I just been trying to, stay above the water, for better lack of words, and as the colloquial would say, right? So, how does, as I said, Apple come into that, right? Already, I have a lot of that information on greater consciousness appraisals in my life, listening to music. And not to people, like I said all that to say that. So, to the point of Silicon Valley and what, um, power entails in our lives. Well, you just have to go, right? And I guess personal choices, if you will. What makes you unique, right? And where I talked a lot about I representation that people can do in the blink of an eye, right? On their phone, on their laptop, anywhere where there's internet, right? That opened up the game, if you will, as far as and content curation, right? Or even broadcasting. You don't have to just have a radio station anymore. You can have a podcast online um, through an app, right? So we trip there, but that's just one. I know. The right. Same thing goes with YouTube, right? Except on YouTube, obviously you can camera device, right? So it's a little bit more hands-on affect with YouTube. But going back to the point about Silicon Valley being a way for people to network. Well, that's a great thing, and there is a lot of power in that. And specifically, my last videos, I was saying I talked about how I myself have found myself parsing and parlaying in subgroups, right? Particularly me studying Black sociologists, African American collegiate professors who themselves have found ways to venue their work off into networks through social media. But as I said, for me, I'm just looking up to them, what they've taught me, the ways I've connected to them virally, and how I internalize that, and the way I want to produce that as a music teacher and content. I brought out this sociology book, as I said last week, because I just wanted to go over basic terms about what it means to be in a community, what it means to be in a network, what it means to communicate, right? What it means, um, when society changes, right? I talked a little bit about that last week, and how all of those changes that Black men have went through in society, right, were detriments, obviously, but they weren't included. Now, what can subvert the law is people, and sociology, and so that's why we have these systems, right? There you go. And so they can kind of remind us and keep us in our place. And I know that is not really good language that a lot of people might want to hear, but it is important to recognize and underscore that we all have to have, as I said a few videos ago, restraint. And the way you get that restraint is by understanding who you are, understanding how far you'll navigate out of your normality based on society, and based on, more specifically, your community, right? Because your community, even your family, right, don't determine you, right? We are all unique. And I wanted to go over a bunch of terms, but like I said, I'm going to keep this video short and just kind of get to the heart of what I want to say about um, thinking of these group dynamics in a more intentional way, in the ways that we operate with one another. Because I've been talking a lot on social media about this toxic therapy. I've been writing about that a lot, because I think that, and I'm not a sociological expert, but what I believe is going on is what this book explicitly says is it can be a problem in societies, is when there's too rapid of a change. And I even me just saying that, I really, people already know where I'm going to go with it. And that is the council culture. Because what happens is, when there's an influx of information in society, and the people in that are affected by the influx in that society um, are basically in the transition of that societal change. It's called societal change, right? Um, they basically uh, become too individualized, or it's not accessible for them, right? The things that they were used to, their normal, their normalities, their norms, their ways of life, if you will. And um, there's so many ways that we can think about that, right? And how, specifically, I have to admit, how Americans have kind of superimposed our way of life on others, right? And it's not accessible and globalized like every other country in the world, right? And so that's where you may get some problems, obviously. But in a more kind of personal sense, right? And just, I'm not going to be, like I said, preaching and teaching God, really just sharing my understandings and what I believe in and what I know needs to be shared with the world to you all. I can go over terms and terms like ethnocentrism, disability, but I'm not going to go into all that, right? What I will be saying is how Saray Rogers thinks about how he's going to communicate himself in the most prominent, beautiful way possible to the world. Next week, I will be diving a little bit into that when Miles Davis. There you go. My man Miles, right? And I mentioned him before in one of my previous videos. that in his approach, he always stays